All right, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to talk about a big concept in Elementor, which I think is very important to understand, and that is that Elementor isn't all drag and drop. Elementor's marketing makes you believe that it is, right? You drag and drop everything and you create a website. Anyone can do it. You don't need to know any code. And then people start working with the tool and then they become confused because it's actually not that easy. And I want to say that that's not your fault at all. It is because of their marketing. But to be fair, you can do a lot of things with drag and drop, but dragging and dropping your whole website would be a very stupid way to build your website. First of all, it will make your website slow. And second of all, it will be so hard to edit. So let's go to an actual example. So here I have a website, right? This is a normal website with many pages, as you can see. And all of these pages look different, but there's also a lot of content that repeats throughout the pages. So, for example, the header. Here we can see the header with the menu and some information, some contact info, and that header appears on all the pages. The inside of each page is different, but then at the bottom we have the footer, which is the foot of the website. This, of course, also appears on all of the pages. So when you start your home page, you actually start working from here and then down. And then this part, you create that in another place, and then you use that on all of the pages. Even actually for the images, all of the images are not on the Elementor page itself. Even though you can drag an image widget on the page, the actual images are saved in the media library inside of WordPress. And that's a lot smarter because if you use the same image on multiple pages, then it would not be so smart to save it 2 times. You can better save it once somewhere and then use that. So that's why when you are in your Elementor editor and you need to select an image, you go to the WordPress menu. This is not Elementor. This is selecting an image from WordPress, which is actually just the same thing over here. Another great example, which a lot of websites have, is a blog. So here you can see a blog with all kinds of blog posts. This is, by the way, just a design, so the names are not correct, but it's just to explain what I'm talking about. So you have an overview of all of the blog posts, and then you have the actual blog posts themselves. And then this image is used over here, but also in that overview, which is also saved in the media library. The actual content of the blog post, so the title and the actual text, these are saved in the post tab over here. So let me open one for you. So here you can see this title is what is used over here. And then this content is what is used over here. So theoretically, you could create a new page for all of your blog posts, but that wouldn't be really smart because all of your blog posts have the same design, and therefore it's much smarter to create one template where you say to Elementor like, hey, I want to use this design for all of my blog posts, which of course is a much smarter way to work. But this takes a little bit of practice because you have to know things about dynamic content, the theme builder, which I of course will explain all in this course. But in this episode, I just want you to realize that it's all connected and it's not as easy as drag and drop. By the way, I just said the word dynamic, and let me explain that a little bit. Dynamic is everything that is loaded in from somewhere else. So let's go back to the home page. We have all kinds of content here. We have a title, we have an image. Like I said, the image technically is dynamic because it's not on the Elementor page itself. It's loaded in from the media library. The blog posts are also loaded in from the post tab over here. So that is also dynamic. But for example, this little text over here, our clients, that actual content is over here. It's not loaded in from somewhere. It's actually saved on this page. And that is what we call static. So we have static and dynamic. So this is all static content. But when we come to this section, for example, we can see this title, which is a static one. But then this whole section, the testimonials, I cannot change. I cannot click on these layers. And that is because we have used a loop grid here, which I will explain later. These are done with posts. So if you go back to WordPress, you can see that I've created this tab over here testimonials. This is where all of the testimonials are saved, and then I use that data in here. The reason why is because in my design, if you scroll down, you can see that we use the testimonials over here, but there's also a whole page with more testimonials. So then it makes sense to save it in one place and then use it in multiple places instead of dragging and dropping. So we want to work smart. I want to teach you how to work smart, which I'm going to do. But as you can see, this is not dragged and dropped. This is loaded in from somewhere, and we will cover this later. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, it's simple. We're going to work a lot with dynamic content and global settings in this course because this is the way to work smart. I want you guys to work smart so that you can make more money with your web design business. I've already showed you a little bit of the background of WordPress. So in the next episode, I want to dive deeper into WordPress because how does WordPress connect to Elementor and what does hosting have to do with it? We're going to talk about that. So I will see you in the next episode. All right, welcome back. So in the last episode, we were stuck over here. We have covered all of WordPress, but not the themes and the plugins. So let's talk about it because this is very confusing. You have to know a little bit about the past of WordPress to understand why we still need a theme and how Elementor connects to the theme. So let's talk about history a little bit. So I found a screenshot online of one of the first versions of WordPress, as you can see right here, where you could create a blog post in the same way as we still have the post option right here. So then you would create a few posts and you would have a blog. And this became really popular because back in the day when this started, which is many years ago, it was not possible to publish content yourself without the help of a media company. So if you wanted to get your message out, you need to know somebody from the newspaper, for example. But then WordPress came and be like, hey, you can create your own blog posts. If you put it on the internet and you get people to your website, you are your own publisher. This then became very popular because it gave a lot of freedom to the people. In the same way as YouTube gave freedom to people to publish videos without the help of TV. You can do it yourself. So that's why still, after all these years, we have the post feature as default inside of WordPress and the comments feature, which are just comments on blog posts, built into WordPress. So you would add all of your blog posts over here. You would start typing, talking about your life or your business. You would connect your domain and then you would try to market yourself. But then how did your website look? That is what you did with a theme. So under the Appearance tab, which is another word for how things visually looked, you had the theme. So in the same way as you go to a party and the theme is Halloween, everybody dresses up as Halloween and that's the theme of the party. A website can also have a theme. So how does your blog post actually look? So right now, by default, this theme is installed 2023. So how does my website look? Let's open that. Let's see. I have one blog post, Hello World, which we can see over here in the post tab, Hello World. There's some content in it. Some text, that's it. And that is because we have installed this theme. But you can install another theme. So for example, let's do Astra, which is also a popular one. If you then click on install and activate, and you go back to your blog post, you click on refresh, now your website looks different. All kinds of different colors, different fonts. And what about normal pages? So if you go to pages and you view this sample page, for example, this is how a page looked inside of Astra. But if you click on it, what is in there? There's a title over here, and there is some dummy content. So then if you go to your theme, which I'm going to open in a new tab, and we're going to install another one, for example, Blogus, and I activate it, and I go back to my blog post, I click on refresh, you can see now our website looks completely different. If we click on the blog post, as you can see, easy, right? Easy to work with. And let's see how our sample page looked because it already has created a menu over here. Sample page. Okay, well, I think that looks better than Astra, right? So maybe I want to use this theme. So this is how it used to work in WordPress. You just search for a theme inside of the theme directory over here. You picked one that you liked and then you had a style for your blog website or your whole website. But there were a lot of limitations because what can you do in this field, right? You can maybe add an image over here. Let's just do that. I'm going to add some images. All right, let's add an image of myself in this page. Okay, let's make it a little bit bigger. because by default it's so small. Okay, this is me. Let's click on update. Let's go back to the sample page, refresh, and there you see, now we have an image. So this was the way to edit pages. You just had this big box of content and you just added the picture and that's it. But your pages looked very boring. You could not really do a lot. You cannot add, I don't know, a pricing table, for example, because then you would have to go to plugins and then go over here and then search for example, pricing table, and then add a plugin like this one, which probably is good, and then gives you a few options to add a pricing table. So there were multiple problems with this approach, and that is that first of all, you were very limited in terms of design, what you could do in this box, and also is that you had to know all kinds of plugins, you had to do a lot of research and click and install. They have all different kinds of menus, and it just becomes a big mess. And then companies like Elementor were like, you know what? I think we can do this better. What if we just combine all of these things inside of one plugin so people don't have to mess? And then they also have the freedom to change the design however they want. Because if you would like to customize the design of this, because maybe you don't like the blue, you have to go into customize over here. And all of the things works a little bit different, which is frustrating. So if you go to colors over here, you can see we have this one over here. We can probably change it from here. Let's make it purple. All right, the menu now changes. But where do we find the other options? You have to search all the time. It's different. And the options here are limited to this theme. So what did Elementor? Elementor said, you know what? We're going to do this differently. When you go to a page, what you're going to do is we're not going to put in the content over here. We're going to take over this whole content box. We're going to take that over. And then we give people the option to drag and drop. So when you click on Edit with Elementor, it takes over, it overwrites the box that was here. And then this whole content box just becomes a widget, as you can see. But you can now drag more widgets into it. You can add another image if you want to. Or like I said, you can even add one of their pricing table if you have Pro. Right now I'm in the free version. But even on the free version, you have Google Maps, for example, which you then don't have to add an extra plugin for, right? And with Pro, of course, you get a lot more widgets. But the only box that we can edit is still inside of this content box. So then Elementor gave us the option over here to change it from the theme, the default theme, because that's what we installed, to Elementor full width. And then it deletes all of the themes, the theme styling. It only keeps the header and the footer, and then it gives you the full freedom from left to right in order to add widgets, whatever you want, like this. And the settings are the same for every single website, right? You change the colors and the fonts in the site settings over here. You know what kind of widget you have. It's very nice to have that same workflow for every website. So this is what is possible with Elementor Free. Let's just update that, go back for a step. So now you can see that in the sample page, the content box is gone and Elementor took over that content box. So that is why Elementor Free already became popular, because that's just a nicer workflow. And then with Elementor Pro, what does that do? Because as you can see on this page, we still have that menu from that theme and in the footer as well. This is part of the theme. I didn't create this with Elementor, because if you now change your theme, let's just do that. Let's go to Appearance, go to Theme, and let's activate Astra again. We go back, we refresh. There you go. Here, the menu is totally different now, and the footer is also different. So we want to change that as well. And that is where Elementor Pro comes in. So let's go back to my visual representation. What does Elementor do? Elementor takes over that content box of your normal pages, like the home and the about, the services and contact. Like we have seen over here, we can take over that content box within the sample page. But what if we want a different design for our posts, our blog posts? We can edit this page with Elementor, but that is not really smart, because then we would have to drag and drop our blog post. And then if you have 100 blog posts, you have to change 100 pages in order to change the design. This button actually shouldn't be here, because they should push you to go to Elementor Pro, because with Elementor Pro, you can actually change the parts that are part of the theme. So with Elementor Free, we can edit the normal pages. And then if we want to edit the actual parts of the theme, so for example, the post template, the template that is used for all of the blog posts, Then you have to edit the theme. If you want to edit the header or the footer, the bottom, you have to go into the theme in order to change that. But then you have the problem that every theme is different and it just becomes a mess. So Elementor then said, you know what? We're just gonna create our own theme. We don't need anything in it because we're also gonna give people the opportunity to edit all of these elements and their blog posts with drag and drop as well. They have to buy Elementor Pro for that, but hey, they have a business as well, right? It's not free to create this plugin. So then they created the theme builder. That's why it's called the theme builder. But technically, it's not a theme builder. It's more like a theme user because it already uses the functionality of the theme that WordPress has built in. So for example, the header, and you cannot change that. It's just the theme builder is just using and overwriting the parts of the theme that were already here. So that's important for you to understand. The theme builder doesn't actually build the theme. It's more like a theme user. So that's why in the theme builder, if you have Elementor Pro, you have an option to change the header and the footer and the single post. All of these options are now editable with drag and drop, and they then overwrite the parts of the theme. So yes, this is a little bit confusing, but I hope with this background story you now understand why this is the way it is and how Elementor Free and Elementor Pro and WordPress work together to give you the experience that you know or you're going to learn about in Elementor. Within Elementor Pro, you get a few more options. Oh, there's actually one more option which I need to add, which is extra widgets, which I just told you. For example, if you want a pricing table, you don't need to add another plugin because Elementor already has a solution for it. Not always, so that's why sometimes you need extra plugins. At least Elementor has the most basic widgets inside of Elementor Pro. So all of these widgets, in the past you had to download plugins for it. So it's just great what Elementor has done with all of these functionalities. With Elementor Pro, you also get saved templates, which is another feature which is useful. So for example, for a part like this with a pricing table, which appears on multiple pages, you can use their template widget. It's then saved over here in saved templates. As you can see the pricing, and then you can save that somewhere and then use it on multiple pages, for example, on the home page over here, or also on the pricing page. So I save that in one place, use it in multiple places. It's also a thing you get with Elementor Pro. It's super nice. The pop-up templates. Sometimes you want to use pop-ups, not that much, but it's nice that it's here. And a page template for if you want to work in the old version of WordPress, which is useful for things like privacy policies, but I will explain that later as well. Just know that you get a few more options next to the theme template overrider, as I call it, the theme builder inside of Elementor Pro. So I know that this was a lot, but this is actually what's happening behind the scenes in Elementor. And I really hope that I didn't confuse you more and you now have some clarity on what's happening behind the scenes. And you see, guys, like Elementor is a small part in this whole thing, which is how WordPress websites work. This is not the same for every platform. Some platforms like Squarespace are built a little bit more simple, right? Because you cannot do a lot. Or companies like Webflow, they have a different system where they don't have the post feature as default. So it just depends on the platform, but WordPress is the biggest one in the world. There's a reason for it. There's so much possible, and Elementor made it so much easier to build websites. So I also hope that I made you a little bit excited about the possibilities. Even though Elementor is complex, it was so much harder before to build websites, guys, and you were so much more limited. So I am really happy what Elementor has become. But we still need WordPress so much in order to make websites and especially to build them smart and to keep them fast. Okay, enough for now. Let's go to the next episode. All right, welcome back. So in this episode, I want to talk about how Elementor and WordPress connect. In the last episode, I already showed you a little bit that Elementor really needs WordPress. And in this episode, I want to explain WordPress a little bit more because what is it really and why do we need it? So what I've done is I've created this overview, which we will go over slowly to give you an understanding of how it works. Okay, so before we go into the details, I first want to tackle what WordPress actually is. And in order to understand that, we have to know what a website actually is. So let's go and see what a website actually is. So basically it's just this. It's just a bunch of folders which contains codes which I personally cannot read because I am not a developer. Well, I am a no-code developer, but I'm not a real developer. So these are just files with all kinds of codes which I do not understand. And I don't have to because I have WordPress. And in the rest of these folders, there are images, for example, that we use on the website or the users that are added to this website. And this, of course, is very hard to read. We need a system, a content management system in order to read this. And that is what WordPress is. That's why WordPress is called a CMS. WordPress is the biggest CMS in the world. And it's just that. It's a system to manage the content, a content management system. So what it gives you out of the box is just a simple list like this, where you can easily access the media, so the images that you have uploaded to your website, where you can easily access the blog posts. You can easily see all of your plugins and add new plugins. So that's what WordPress does. It just turns this, which is very hard to use, into this, which is easy to use. And Elementor itself is just one of these plugins, which we will go over in a minute, but it's just a plugin. And a plugin is just an app that you add to your website in the same way as you add an app to your phone and then you have a new functionality. So all of these files, no matter what you upload, what you do on your website, is saved somewhere. And that place is called hosting. It's where the files are hosted. So that is what companies like this do. They just save your files somewhere on a computer, on a hard drive, on a very big, fast hard drive. And this company then keeps all of these files online 24/7, and they give you some settings to change. But the actual address of your website, so not your domain, but the actual address is a very weird code, something like this. So if you just buy hosting, then you just have this ugly website address, but you have a place to store all of your files, right, from your website. And WordPress is free, even though many people think it's paid because there's also a paid version. But WordPress is free, and then WordPress is installed on the hosting. That is how it works. And then if you want a fancy name so people can easily get to your website, you will need a domain name. And a domain name can be something like livingwithpixels.com, and that just links to the hosting. And that makes it possible for people to type it in into the address bar and then get to your hosting. And then the only thing that normal visitors will see is the actual website and of course not all the files and all the settings. That's why technically you can buy your domain name at another company and then just link it to where your files are hosted. That's why these two things are separate. But most companies provide hosting and domain because that's just a lot easier. Many of them also provide an email service so that you can, for example, have contact@livingwithpixels.com as an email address, which is also nice. But then, of course, you need to be the owner of the actual domain. So hosting is something you pay for on a monthly basis, even though many of them have yearly pricing. And domain is something you pay for on a yearly basis. So what kind of hosting companies are there? Because there are three big ones which you need to understand if you're using Elementor. And that is that you have normal hosting providers like Hostinger or SiteGround. There are many more, but these are the two that I recommend. You have WordPress.com, which many beginners buy, but that's actually not a smart thing to do. And you have Elementor's own hosting. They have their own hosting solution since a few months. So if you go to Elementor.com, you scroll down, you can see that they're already promoting it over here. Even if you go to pricing, they start with WordPress hosting, even though the plugin is their main product, but they're really trying to push their own hosting. I am not a fan of their hosting because it's quite expensive and it limits your options. This will become better in the future, so keep an eye on this page if you want to get it. For now, I wouldn't do it because you can also not change page builders in the future. Let's say that you don't like to work with Elementor in a few years from now, then they will probably not allow that to change from page builder. But most of the other hosting companies do that. So that's why I don't recommend Elementor hosting. You also have WordPress.com. I get a lot of questions about this. Okay, so many people go to WordPress.com because they think that's what they need when they want to work with Elementor. Elementor, and then they go to plans and pricing, and then they get to this page. They also have monthly and annual payments. But I also don't recommend to buy this kind of hosting because this also limits your options. You cannot install every plugin, and it's so expensive. Here, look at this. For 45 euros per month, you will get WooCommerce, but that plugin is free. If you just pick the hosting companies that I provide, you are under $10, actually, maybe sometimes even under $5 a month. And then you get that for free. So WordPress.com hosting is so expensive. I would not recommend it because it limits your options, because not all plugins are available, and it's expensive. So what I recommend is the following two companies. If you go to my website, so livingwithpixels.com/software, I will put that link in the show notes. I recommend two companies, which is Hostinger and SiteGround. I do recommend Elementor, of course, but that is for their plugin, not for their hosting. And with these companies, you get the complete freedom, which is exactly what you want. It's a lot cheaper. The cheapest option is a Hostinger, it's super affordable. The more premium option is SiteGround. Their support is a little bit better, and I think their security as well. But these two companies are great. You get a lot of options for a great price. So if you scroll down, you can see that you already have cheap packages. These prices are when you sign up for many years. I do have a discount code though. If you want for Hostinger, you get 10% off. And for SiteGround, I do not have a discount code, but they do have WordPress hosting packages, which is better than normal web hosting because WordPress hosting is optimized for WordPress. This is just the price for the first year. So this is the actual price when you want unlimited websites. So it really depends. This is not a hosting video. This is just to show you the options. There are three kinds of hosting, which is Elementor included ones. I do not recommend WordPress. Do not recommend because both of them are expensive and limit your options. So if you want to pick hosting, pick Hostinger or SiteGround. I can make a whole separate course about hosting. And I am actually working on a series about Hostinger, how to set it up and how to do everything. So if you're interested about that, I will put the link down below as well. For now, let's go back to our explanation because there's one more thing that I need to explain over here on the left, and that is subdomains. So we have main domains and we have subdomains. So what is the difference? So your main domain, for example, is livingwithpixels.com. But with some hosting companies, like Hostinger and SiteGround, if you open all of their features, you will see that you get subdomains. For example, with this package, you already get 100 subdomains. So what is that? This is your main domain, and anything you put before the point is a subdomain. So for example, testing website 1, whatever. This is free, and for this domain, you don't have to pay extra if the subdomains are part of your hosting package. So why would you use that? Well, this is very nice for developing websites in the background. So what I do a lot of the times is that I, for example, test plugins for videos, or that I build a website for a client when they want to keep their main domain live. I just build my website on a subdomain, and then when the website is done and ready, then I transfer it so we don't lose any time and the website doesn't have to be under construction. And another great use for subdomains is to use it for portfolio items so that you can run a whole website and show what you can do to your potential clients. And then you can just link to those websites from your portfolio or send that link via an email to your client. You can create anything you want here. You can see here, for example, I have many subdomains. These are all folders inside of my hosting. So how it works technically is that, let me go back to that example of the code. This is the main folder where WordPress is installed, as you can see, with all of these WordPress files. But here we can see Living with Pixels website 2022. I created that folder myself, and that is a subdomain because I needed to test different things. Here, course-l-example. Look at this. Course-l-example. I don't pay anything for this website because I'm already paying for testingwithpixels.com. This is what I paid for. That's the main domain, but the subdomains are free. And it just creates a folder inside of the package you're already paying for. So that's great. Okay, so now you understand The three main parts, you understand that a domain is just a name that links to the actual website, the actual address of your website. Your hosting stores all of your files, and WordPress just makes it easy to navigate between all of the code and all of the difficult things. And that's it. So what are all these things over here? Media, what is that? You can upload images, for example, or icons, or even PDFs, which are all saved over here inside of the media. The post, the normal post widget, which you get out of the box with WordPress. The normal blog post. You can create blog posts. They're saved over here. You can create extra kind of post, for example, as I've done over here, because I needed a list for the team, for testimonials, and for jobs, because I want to use that data on multiple places. We'll explain that later, but it's basically the same thing. It's a list of blog posts, but then it's just a little bit different. All of your normal pages, so unique pages that are not the same, because all of your blog posts have the same design, but the home and the about do not have the same design. So that's the pages. Find them over here. The theme, that is a little bit harder. Let's first go a little bit down and go to menu. So inside of WordPress, you always get under the appearance tab, you get the menu. You can create the menu, which you can then insert with a widget inside of Elementor over here. And the last thing is the settings. You have some settings over here. For example, what the homepage should be, or what the title of your website should be. So let's now cover plugins and themes, because that's a little bit more complex. But let's do that in the next episode, because this episode is already long enough. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back to a new episode. So in order to make sure that you are provided with all the help you need in order to follow this course, I have prepared a few things. Let's go over them. The first thing is that I have something new, and that is a Discord group. If you don't know what Discord is, it's kind of like a chat platform that has become very popular. In the beginning, it was only used for gamers, and that is because it's great for organization. Many of you are probably part of the Facebook group from Living with Pixels, but Facebook is so hard to organize. It's just a long list, and you cannot find anything. And people keep asking the same questions, and that's not their fault. It's just because Facebook is just a long list. It's very hard to find things. And Discord has solved this issue by creating a much better organization platform, because you can create all kinds of groups, or channels as they call them. And I actually want to convert my whole Facebook group to this, and those people will be in the free community. But you, since you're part of the Elementor Pro course, you can get access to this group. So this is just for people that are in this course. There will be more channels over here, for example with support, but there's an FAQ for frequently asked questions. If there's an update to the course, it will be displayed over here. And of course, you can chat with everyone in the general group. We're still figuring out what is the best way to manage Discord, but having these groups is already a lot better than the Facebook group. So that's the first place where you can find support. If you want to join Discord, there is a link down below that you can click on. You can run Discord in your browser, or you can install it on your Mac or on your Windows, or even on your phone. You can turn on notifications. However you want to use it, that's up to you. So I would recommend to do that right now. Click on the link, make an account, make sure to join the group, and then come back to me. Okay, so now let's go to the next thing that I've prepared for you, and that is the terms list. So now we have this page on the website, which I will also link down below here. And that is a big list of all the terms that I use. We're going to use a lot of terms like custom post type, right? And I'm going to say these things a lot in the course. So when you feel lost and you're like, oh, what is this guy saying? Just go to this page and search for the word, and there's probably an explanation here. I'm still adding things to this list to make it more comprehensive. And maybe you're going to categorize it also a little bit, because right now it's quite a mess already. But there's already a lot in here, and I've tried to explain it in the most simple way possible. So that is also something you can use. Then another page, which is also new, is the troubleshooting Elementor page. So sometimes you do something in Elementor and then you click on preview and then it looks different or it doesn't work. So I have a few solutions here to problems that I have come across. So if you have some problems, go to this page, also linked below, and make sure to try these things before you go into the Discord group or before you go to Elementor support or whatever, because you might solve it with these things. The next thing is that I want to say that there is an email address called courses@livingwithpixels.com, which you can use if you have problems with your accounts, things with payments, or you don't have access to the course anymore, something happens. Make sure to email courses@livingwithpixels.com and we will try to help you. I do have some help now, so you don't always get a reply from me, but we will try to help you. And then the last thing, which is very obvious, but I need to say it, is Elementor support itself. Well, this is first of all the help center. Not everybody knows this exists, but if you just go to elementor.com/help, there are a lot of articles right here that you can also access in order to get an answer. And then the last thing is their own support. Yes, I know it's a little bit obvious to say, but still I need to say it because this course is not an Elementor support group, right? For the money you pay for this course, I cannot provide support for Elementor problems to everyone. That's just simply impossible. It's just a few people from my team. So do not expect that we can solve every Elementor issue that you have. That's why I have created the Facebook group and the Discord group. But even in there, don't expect to get an answer because maybe there's something wrong with, I don't know, your hosting, for example. Sometimes hosting creates problems. The thing is, we cannot solve everything. If you have a real problem with Elementor, you should contact their support. Again, this is a course, not Elementor support. So I hope that that's clear. But I think that everybody will understand this. So that's all I've done to make the experience nicer for you. If you have any more ideas that you think we should add, then just go to Discord and put it in the group because I'm also trying to improve the course. This is a product and I want to make that experience as nice for you as possible. I've spent so much time on it, so I want it to be good as well. Okay, so now you're fully set up to get started with the content. This was all the preparation. And now in the next episode, we're actually going to start with the content itself. So I hope you are excited. Thank you for listening to this introduction and let's get started. Welcome back to the second episode of the course. In this episode, I will tell you what you need in order to follow this course. So let me start off by saying that you don't actually need anything if you want to follow this course. You can just watch all the videos if you want to, and then apply the knowledge later in your projects. That's totally fine. But I have prepared a whole design file, a whole website for you that has quite a lot of challenges that you have to overcome if you want to build this website. So this project is especially made for this course. So if you really want to get most out of the course, then I would really recommend to try to rebuild this website. And this design is made in Figma. So if you want to extract the colors, the images, and things from this design, then you will need a Figma account. So if you go to the website, livingwithpixels.com, and then go over here to software recommendations or go to /software, I will put the link down below as well. You can see Figma over here. Figma is free. Their free version has all of the features you need. So you can just click on this link over here. And then over here, you just create an account with your email. And then you can go to this link, which I'm also going to provide below. And if you then log in, you can make a copy of this file to your own Figma account. That is how it works. Figma has this great feature. You don't have to send files. You can just copy this whole file and bring it to your own Figma account. And then you can extract it and do anything you want with it. But again, you don't need to do this. You can also just watch the videos or just play around with Elementor Pro. So, do you need Elementor Pro to follow this course? Well, no, as well. You don't have to. You can still watch all of the videos. But if you want to build this website, then you will need Elementor Pro because this website has features that are simply not possible with the free version. If you're still not convinced yet that you will need Elementor Pro, that's totally fine. In a few episodes from now, you will, because I'm going to cover what the difference is between Elementor Pro and Elementor Free. And at that point, you will realize why you will need Elementor Pro. So if you still don't have it right now, that's totally fine. But if there comes a point in the course where you want to buy it, then you can click on this link over here, and this will then bring you to my landing page. And I collaborated with them to make this page. And this page has everything you need. It has all the packages. I do recommend for most small agencies to pick the 25 Pro website package. But if you just want one website, then of course you can also just pick this one. So then you need to host your website somewhere. Elementor also has hosting, but that's something I do not recommend yet. So what I recommend is to pick a hosting company that has all the features that you need. I recommend Hostinger and SiteGround, and they also provide you with a subdomain feature, which you can use to host websites for free under your main domain. I will explain this later. So if you don't have hosting yet, that's fine. And at some point when you want to buy a domain and hosting and you're ready for it, then go to this page. There's also a discount link here for Hostinger that you can use to get 10% off. But then I would choose between Hostinger and SiteGround. SiteGround is a little bit more premium than Hostinger, but Hostinger is more beginner friendly in terms of pricing. Both of them are great. Their interface is great. So you can pick one of those. Do not get hosting from WordPress.com. I will explain that later as well, because you can just get WordPress for free. By the way, the links on this page are affiliate links. So if you decide to buy one of these products and you use the links that you can find in these buttons, then I will get a small commission and therefore you support my work. You don't pay anything more. Actually, sometimes you pay even less. So thanks a lot if you decide to do that. But let's say that you're not ready yet to buy hosting because you're just here to learn and you just want to test Elementor. That's fine. You have another option, which is to develop locally. Sometimes this can be useful because with this option, you can host a website for free. It's actually not live, but you can just run it on your computer. So you cannot send that link to a client because at some point when you want to have a normal website, you also need to pay for hosting. This company is actually a hosting company behind the scenes, but I don't recommend them. But they do have this great offline tool that you can use to develop WordPress websites offline. It has a few limitations, but it's basically the same. So if you don't have a hosting package yet and you just want to test a few things easily, you can use a tool like this. And then there's one more company that I want to talk about, and that is InstaWP, because with this tool, you can host a website temporarily. I think they give it for like a day or something. So if you want to test a plugin like really fast, but you don't want to set up hosting and subdomains, you just want to test something really quick, you can just do this, but then the website will be gone in a day or two, I think. But I sometimes use this if I want to have a WordPress install ready in like 10 seconds. So those are the things that I think you need to follow this course. And then there's one more thing that I think you need, and that is time and commitment. Yes, there's a lot of content in the course. It was actually longer before, and I was like, I want to make it shorter because it needs to be consumable for people. So I did already make it shorter, but still you will need some commitment. This is not an easy YouTube video that you can just watch and give a like and then it's done, right? You need to put in some effort if you really want to learn how to build great websites, because as they say, no pain, no gain. Okay, that's it for this episode. Click on the next one and I will see you there.